how they'll affect the tooling group. So I've started the recording, and I will start sharing my screen. Here we go. So we have, let's see, the notes open here. For anyone who is missing the link, I'll just paste it in the chat for good measure. And if I could ask somebody to fill out attendance, that's always helpful to me. Otherwise, I'm going to just go ahead. Thanks. I'm going to go ahead and look at last week's action items, which were to follow up on the ZST streaming interface, except I didn't put an assignee on here, so I don't actually remember now, because it was a month ago, who we expected to have an action item on this. Was it for me to review it, PJ?
Honestly, I don't remember either, so it might have been.
Okay, well, I'm gonna make sure that now I have an action item to review this. Sorry, I was out for 2 weeks.
That's fine. With the holidays, I also have not done a whole lot.
That is assuming it is ready for review.
Yeah, from the last time I looked at it, which was at least a month ago, I think it was ready for review, but it's probably worth taking another look at it, because I'm willing to bet master has changed since the last time I updated it.
It has, but I don't think that much, unless we merged. So there was a major merge of the multi-threading for compression, but that might have happened before the last working group meeting.
Yeah, I think that I had rebased that PR on top of master since then.
Yeah, I will also be going ahead and working more on refactoring compression over the next few weeks. So let's try and get your stuff in here, first in, first out situation, so I don't go clobbering your work. Okay, so that's that for action items, which is, I'll make sure that I actually have a personal list that I'm keeping of things to do, so I'll make sure to put that on there. Okay, and then we're looking at, I noticed in, sorry, I went to the navigation working group last week, which was interesting, and I asked them, well, one, about what they needed out of ROS-bag 2, and they said what they weren't using it, so I asked them to give it a go so that we could have useful data on a real sizable project that's out in the open on how they use it. But another interesting thing was that they went around the room and asked folks what they were working on, which to me is interesting. I think we were doing that at some point last year. I'm wondering maybe if we want to do that right now as well, or if we want to do it at the end. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? I thought it would be a nice thing to do, just go around the circle. What are you working on that's related to the working group, or why, what's your interest in being here? Probably that helps us inform what we should talk about in the meeting. So maybe let's just do that real quick now. Jacob, we talked briefly before everyone else signed on, but if you could just give us a quick, what's up? What's your interest with the working group? What are you working on?
Hello, my name's Jacob Hasselt. I am you might have seen me. I'm the weirdo that's currently trying to implement the reindexer and kind of stumbling around a little bit. Sorry about that, but that's basically what I've been working on for the past, I don't know how long. I'm also the guy, if I remember correctly, I think I implemented splitting. I think I did splitting bags by duration. I think that was my other contribution to the group.
Yeah. And no need to apologize. It's a process we're all figuring out with how to do stuff in open source, right? It's always just an ongoing.
Oh yeah, my style is that I like to make lots of small commits because I'm deathly afraid of making a mistake and blowing everything up because it has bitten me a lot in the past. So my my history tends to be extraordinarily long, and I don't know if that's bothering you guys.
Oh, well, we'll squash it when we merge anything, so it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Yeah, but it also causes your build system to keep running in overdrive. So I keep getting notifications that your build failed. And I'm like, yes, I expected it to fail. I'm just trying to make sure I save where I am.
Yeah, makes sense. It should be fine. I don't think we've hit any system limits. Anyways, we'll keep going around the circle. Matt?
I've mostly just been working on design stuff for the multi-machine launching. Currently waiting on some refactoring that's going on in the launch system that's sort of laying some of the groundwork for us and splitting out some of the just some of the considerations for single machine launching and keeping track of like processes versus a lot like the data objects versus the objects doing the work is sort of conflated a bit. And so another person I'm working with, Roger Strain, has been working on a refactor for that, which the multi-machine is going to build on top of. So just waiting on that at the moment.
Okay. Cool. Aaron? Haven't seen you in a while.
It has been a tick, hasn't it? Well, as we talked about before, I'm here to review all the awesome things that Emerson's putting together, and AWS robotics interest in the tooling work group in general is awesome tools for that RoboMaker can build on top of. Personally, I am sadly not developing any cool new code that is affecting the tools in here. I try every day to carve out some time to put on coding, but my boss keeps on telling me that I have to do this management thing. So it's so sad for me every day.
That's okay. You're here by request today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
PJ?
Hi, I'm PJ Reed. Up until a couple of weeks ago, I worked for Southwest Research Institute, but I just got a new job at Hatchbed LLC. But we're still using ROS, so I'll still be here.
Nice.
Most of what I've been working on recently is stuff related to compression and performance in ROS-bag 2. Other tooling-related things that I've got an interest in are GUI visualization tools like the RQT Runtime Modder and Robot Modder and MapViz and so on.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Zach?
Hey, I'm Zach. I'm here to help review the document for Emerson. What I do for the working group is sometimes I click the approve button on Emerson's PRs.
Hopefully you also leave comments before doing that, or learn that they're perfect.
That's a different question, but about a year ago, I helped contribute the compression and splitting to ROS-bag 2.
We're still working on this. It's a big feature set. Yeah. Michael?
Whoop.
We got you for a second, then.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Cool.
I was off doing something else and distracted, and I was like, "Whoa! I got to click over here."
We're just doing a quick round of intros.
Yeah. So I've been at Open Robotics coming up on about 4 months now. Before that, I was the technical lead on the team at Intel that did the port of navigation to ROS2. So we did Nav2. Intel disbanded the team over about a year ago, and then we passed it off to Steve Machensky, and I ended up joining Open Robotics after a while.
Oh, so you were working with Matt Hansen then?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's with us now.
Yeah. We've seated people all over. We have, Matt went to the AWS. We had Carl Delsey that went over to Amazon Robotics in Boston. We've got people at iRobot, Open Robotics, all over the place.
Nice.
So basically, Intel disbanded the team and everybody stayed in robotics. Yeah. So on Navigation 2, I incorporated behavior trees into Nav 2, the lifecycle node work, did all of that, ported a lot of the modules to ROS2. I wanted to stay with ROS2, so I thought being at Open Robotics would be a good transition. So at Open Robotics, relative to this work group, I have maintenance responsibility for a lot of the visualization tools, RQT bag, and I finished off that port to ROS2, so that's functional. ROS-bag 2 is one of the maintenance repos, RQT reconfigured, so on and so forth. Currently, I'm working with NASA on Lunar Rover Viper. So a lot of my work most recently has been on optimizing an imaging pipeline. So I've been using some of the tools like RQT bag and also getting ramped up on the Linux tracing toolkit to kind of insert application level traces and, you know, the ROS tracing module as well, and kind of trace compass, that UI for visualization of trace events. So a lot of tools. I'm kind of involved in maintenance of tools as well as using tools to do analysis and optimization as well.
Great. Okay, Lucas.
Hello, everyone. So I am an SD on the RoboMaker team. I joined around 3 months ago, so I'm still in sort of the infant stage of familiarizing with the products and ROS in general. But I'm here today just because I am generally interested in ROS and the open source commitments. So yeah, I'll be sort of a beginner in this section, but love to hear it though.
Cool. And last but not least, Christoph, if you're there.
Hey, yeah, it's been a while. I like to work on the actions in my free time. I am actually using them, but just for a side project, so nothing serious. So I don't have any real use cases for now. But yeah.
If you meet usability problems, it's always good to just like be using them. You've definitely put in a lot of useful PRs there, so we appreciate the usage.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, so thanks everyone for that. I feel like it's been a while and we had some new faces today, so good to just go around. Let's see, we looked at last meeting's action items. Let's continue moving. Oh yeah. Sorry, side discussions. It's like hard to share screen and look at them at the same time, but it sounds like we maybe want to talk about RQt and tracing. They're both interesting, and tracing is sort of a really functionality.
Yeah, I know we don't actually, like the tooling working group doesn't actually own RQt at the moment, but I'd love to have a quick discussion and then maybe talk about. I think a breakout, like it sounds like from the discussion with PJ is that I probably need to organize a little bit of a discourse post at the very least to kind of get some interest in.
If you wanted to have any breakout session discussions with this working group, like a dedicated, hour-long discussion for visualizers, any topics that we want to cover there, I think that would be a useful discussion. We'd probably find some more outside interest as well.
I think that would, yeah. Let's put that on the consider list, because I think that would be a great avenue to have that discussion. And the megaphone of the working group would be larger than my own, and we might get more people interested and involved.
Okay, yeah, and if you want to make that any more specific, please do.
Yeah, it'll basically be the topic will basically be call for RQT co-maintainers, because it's become very clear to me over the last year that I don't have time to do what's needed to be done, and I need people to help, and I know a lot of people are using it, so that'll be it.
Yeah, I'm now a maintainer on several of those packages, so I'm trying to help pick up some of the slack. Yeah,
that's great. Thank you, Michael. Hey, it's a sad statement that I hadn't really. I know I barely noticed with all the other stuff I'm doing, all the changes that are going on, and
Oh, I know.
that makes it pretty clear that I need you greatly, and the package needs you greatly. So thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. I think they need some attention. I think they're kind of, I don't know, modernization, or they're not that stable sometimes on ROS2, some of them.
A number of them haven't even launched on ROS2, is to my great dismay and sadness. So I think there's a concerted effort to get a group around it that really has the time to put the love they need into them. I agree.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that concludes the RQT portion of the discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Cool. So the next thing on the agenda was to look at the community pull requests, and there's one from me, which is that I wanted to add a new repository to ros-tooling containing some utility GitHub management scripts, two in particular. One that I use to kick off Jenkins builds on ci.ros2.org for a given PR. The interface, I'll just go in real quick, which kind of will demonstrate the difficulty, is that if you go in to run a CI job, right, even if you have access to the build farm, which is not everybody, you can put in a branch to test, but this only works against branches on the source repos in question, which means you have to have write access to those repos to be a person who can have this field help you. Otherwise, you can put in a ROS2 repos URL, which means you need to make a GitHub gist that is a copy of ros2.repos, replace the specific repository, and put the correct branch from the PR on it. And I've got a script already that's written in Python that does that, constructs the gist, uploads it to GitHub, kicks off a CI launcher build, and then pastes the build badges as a comment on the PR, so that it all happens automatically, which is really useful for those of us who do have build farm access. You can also skip the build part if you don't have access and just say, post it as a comment requesting that someone, run the build with that gist. So I found that really useful, and I thought maybe some other open robotics folks might have use for that if we make them aware of it. The other script that I have ready to go that I would put in here is for generating a contribution report, which we use right now monthly to report to the TSC what contributions we've done. I was thinking if we put this up as a standardized format, it might make it a little bit easier to compare apples to apples when doing the TSC contribution review during their meetings every month. What I need to know is whether we think that this repository with sort of a variety of GitHub related utility scripts is something that is appropriate for this working group to own, and if there are any objections to that.
As a kind of general quality note on the contribution reports, a couple of TSC members responded after we shared it with them privately that it was, quote, pretty awesome. So it definitely saved them some time. So take that as far as it'll take you. But it has good user feedback and customer feedback so far for the limited customer set.
Am I allowed to make comments, considering this is my first meeting with you guys?
Yeah, why not?
Everyone is, yes. This is a public forum, right?
Yeah, please. I'm asking for opinions.
Well, in my mind, the purpose of this working group is to develop tooling that is supposed to make things easier for constructing things using ROS2. I don't see much of a difference of constructing tooling that enables people to construct ROS2 itself. So if it's a tool and it's going to help people, whether to use ROS2 or to actually build ROS2, I think that you can make a very valid argument that it falls within your domain.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that it falls under the umbrella. The second question is whether we want to agree to commit to maintaining this package, because taking it on like involves that commitment of maintenance is the only other part to it.
How much value do you think that this provides? You said that it works quite well for you, so.
Yeah, exactly. I think it provides a good deal of value, and I'm gonna say that I don't think it requires much maintenance because it already is doing the report as we want it, and if we need to make updates, they'll be fairly small.
It does provide that value to a kind of a limited set of people at the moment, right? There's only
that's the other concern.
Yeah. There's only 20 representatives on the TSC, and we don't. Like, this wouldn't technically be immediately usable by anyone but those 20 people.
I actually would say that it could be, because I mean, I don't know about other folks here, but I do a monthly report internally of open source contributions we've made, and the script generates that as well.
Are you concerned that people are not going to like the format of the report that is generated?
Well, no, they could change it, right?
Well, that's where I was going to go.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm just, I guess I'm asking for someone to click approve.
Yeah. In general, like, as long as we put up as long as it has a good like raw data output, and it isn't, we aren't trying to make it a very custom report for any individual company, and its general purpose, then
Right.
I think it'll be low maintenance, because anybody who wants to take that kind of more of a raw data output and convert it into their super custom internal report, I mean, they could build it, as long as they can build on top of it, and that part isn't something that the tooling working group maintains. It seems reasonable. The tooling working group should absolutely not become a, hey, tweak my internal report body. I completely agree.
No. But again, it's open source. Like, they can fork it or just modify it locally if they want to. That's the whole point of being open source code. So, all right, it sounds like I'm not hearing any objections. I'm going to create this repository and add these scripts then. If someone could hit the approve button on this PR that adds it to the community file, that would be useful just for sort of reporting for me here, or for like an audit trail. I will paste the link here. Otherwise, we can move on to the next item. No need to deliberate forever on little things. So take a brief look at the backlog, probably just take a look at new issues and then move on, because we've got a couple of discussions we want to get into. I've asked people to be here, and I don't want to take up the entire hour without missing the reason that I asked them to. So we're looking at the
One note on that approval. I have gone in and approved, but I'd like to make sure. So, could you hold on, Emerson, on merging that until we get at least one non-AWS rule maker?
Yeah, that's fine.
I just want to make sure we're not like.
Well, we don't have very many folks who have signed up to be reviewers outside of AWS. There's mostly Karsten. But by the way, if anybody would like to volunteer to be a PR reviewer for the working group, please let me know, or open a pull request, or open an issue on the community repository, bringing it up, because I'm always looking for new folks to volunteer for code reviews. I know it's a time commitment, but it helps these projects move along. And if you feel like you want to be a reviewer for some of the stuff and not other stuff, we can figure that out. It's not set in stone. Like, right now it's set out that if you sign up to be a reviewer, you'll be auto-assigned reviews for every project under ROS-tooling, including ROS-Spec 2 and the GitHub Actions. And if you're someone who would feel really comfortable reviewing some stuff but not others, then we can absolutely work that out. So just wanted to say that. Okay, so we've got 11 new issues to look at. This is from May 6th, 2020, and it's we're looking at pull requests, which is not what we want to look at on this board. There we go, 8 issues. ROS-Spec 2, Bag v2, which this is an old one that I just started realizing we hadn't had the BagV2 plugins on this board, but we maintain that project, and so we should be looking at the issues. I think that the blanket dependency on Boost is removed in, I don't think we have it in BagV2 anymore, but I think it existed in ROS-bag from ROS-1. We'll just have to have someone look at this. It's not worth yeah, I'll assign this to even me unless someone else volunteers. This should be, I think this is already resolved, and so we just need to take a look and make sure that we don't depend directly on Boost anymore. But I don't think we do, especially because the newest rolling version is getting upgraded by, I think Crystal Lancet opened the PR to upgrade it to the latest version of ROS-bag 2, which is Noetic, which has removed, I think, this dependency on Boost. This is another one. CMake warnings about cycle with release archive underlay. So this is a problem when this seems like it's a problem, but I'm not sure if it still exists. That's the problem with having really old issues that we forgot to look at. I'll put it on the backlog and put it near the top so that it can get at least triaged. This did exist at one point on Eloquent and on the pre-Foxy, but it was not tested since the Foxy release, as far as I can tell. Cannot link due to undefined class loader symbols. This okay, so this sounds like they solved their issue. Well, and then 4 months ago was something like October. So again, this is another one. I think we just need to put it near the top of the backlog and find out whether it's resolved for sure. And Karsten's assigned. He's back from his 5-week vacation, but it looks like he didn't join us here today. I had been looking forward to having him back in here.
After 5 weeks, I'm sure it's been a week of clearing out your email box is what I understand.
He said something to that effect, yeah. Oh, there we go. The light has moved just enough that it's not directly on my face anymore. Can use, but can't echo topic. Again, when you let things, can you clarify? Okay. So, due to no response side, I'll put this spreadsheet for how this is please feel free to be open with more. No need to keep issues open forever if they don't get back to you with what the issue is. Allow caching of Docker image for reproducible builds. So this is for the cross-compile tool. We use Docker images for all the stages of the cross-compilation so that you can have a reproducible dependency environment. And this person has asked for a feature that you can tag the images uniquely so that they can be certainly reused every time instead of just hoping. This is a useful feature, but it's an enhancement and not at the top of our list, so we can just move this to the backlog. Race condition. Multiple polls. Okay, maybe we need to have like a triage assignment or something for ROS-bag 2, because some of these, they do take a little bit of, you need to look into it, take 10-15 minutes to try and understand the problem. But it seems, okay, crashes seem to occur while reproducing, and then have around 50 unique topics. That's interesting. Okay. It seems like it is reproducible. Put it on the backlog, and bugs go near the top. I've been working through a number of them myself. Ability to split existing bags by time. So this is sort of like the reindexing thing. It's post-processing for ROS bags. We want to go in and split a large bag up into multiple ones, which is useful if you want to upload in chunks so that's a little bit more reliable. Say you're sending it to S3 or something. I agree, this is a useful feature. Does anybody, just anyone like jump in at any point here if you have opinions about these tickets, but I'm just gonna say seems clear enough to me. Like, I guess more it's like, is this unclear? Is this a bad ticket? Otherwise, I'll just keep moving things to the backlog. But as help wanted enhancements, it goes to the bottom. And then Chris filed this issue, which is that we have this QoS auto detection code for the ROS-bag 2 subscriptions so that they can automatically subscribe to any topic without having any issues related to wrong QoS. And it absolutely would be a useful generic tool for the ROS2 ecosystem for things like the ROS1 bridge, RViz2 visualizers, probably RQt. My personal pet use case is ROS2 topic echo. I don't think users should have to think about QoS when they're doing that unless they want to. Like it should just print topics. This was on my roadmap already for this year, but I hadn't filed it as a public issue. So I'm glad he did so. And I think that this is going to be super great. So I hope I could get to it by Galactic, but it might not make it until the next LTS. We'll see. That is, unless someone wants to work on it. It'll need translating to C because right now it's written in C++, and I think we want to put it in RCL so that RCL Pi can use it. But that's that. Okay, so that's all the new issues. Let's get to the topic discussions. Thanks for your patience, everyone. I have here 2 design reviews that I want to cover. They're both relatively small, but I think that they'll make our lives a lot better in terms of how we manage the repositories here. This might be mostly making my personal life better because I've managed a lot of this. However, I'd like to bring on more maintainers so that it's less on my hands to sort of take care of the little details for everything to run smoothly. So that's what these designs are for, so that I have to do less, and if we ever need anyone else to maintain these things, they won't have to know as much. So if we could just have everyone read through, let's start with the GitHub Actions one, because that one's bothering me more. And if you could just ping me when you're done reading, I'll give it 10 minutes. We don't have a ton of time, but let's give it 10 minutes and that, then that works too. So it's I made this design repo just so that we could do this process because we haven't before. I've been thinking about making a site like the navigation.ros.org site, and starting to generate some design docs would be useful content for this tooling group. And these design docs specifically don't fit on any one repo because they involve multiple repositories. Anyways, okay, be quiet now and let you all read and comment. We'll start with 2, and then we'll discuss that, and then we'll go on to 1, and then discuss that one. Oh, and just a note, it may be easier to read with the rich diff button. If you're not familiar with that one, it'll actually render the markdown for you.
Just so you know, for some reason I am not able to actually read the chat on my client. I only read it by looking over your shoulder.
Sorry about that. So they're both on the ros-tooling /design.
Oh yeah, no, I found it.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know that when you're typing a message to everybody saying it might be easier to read, and I'm like,
I started typing, but that's actually why I said it instead, because I figured that most people weren't even going to be looking at this screen at the moment.
You can also just hit the ellipsis and say view file, and it'll show everything.
Nice. I think we reached the 7-minute mark. Does anyone want more time to spend with the action release design?
I'll pretend that I do so I can have some time to grab a coffee.
Okay.
I'm posting like 1 or 2 comments.
Okay, I'll give it another minute.
I'm good.
Okay. Unless anybody else wants us to wait a little longer, then we'll go into looking at the comments here. It's a little easier to discuss live, which is why I wanted to do this rather than purely in PR form for designs. So I think I'll just address the comments in order that they were posted. So Aaron, you asked, is breaking duplicate code into a repository of its own an option we considered? Based on that question, it sounds like I didn't word this clearly because that's exactly what I was suggesting.
Oh, that's a misread on my part then. Just
yeah, that was the in an additional repository. So basically I was saying we can make a new repo that has just the shared utility code that has its own tests that all of the actions then consume.
Awesome. Yeah, that was just me skimming and reading too quickly. Well done. Thank you.
The next thing was, are we considering moving away from master to main? And Projecta's comment of, is this when I said development will occur on the default branch, and Projecta asked if that's master, you caught me in the midst of like wondering whether we should keep the master name, because default branch like is master by default in Git, but you can set the default branch on your repository to be any branch name. And so that was me going generic, and then I went specific later. And so, yes, I think that it is a good time to consider a default branch rename, and I can build that into this design doc.
Interesting point there. I think the default, I think they may have actually changed the default for new repos. I think it might, like when you create it, it might just go to main now.
Yeah, it might. This, if you'll notice, this PR is merging into main rather than master.
Good call. Good call.
Well, I don't think I did that. I think it happened by default. So I'll remove the master naming and say I'll explicitly say that we want to have the development default branch be main. No problem there.
If you change the default branch to master, do you think it would be worth having a, by changing the default branch name, do you think it's going to be worth having like a tag point to main in case anyone is actually depending on master?
I think what we can do, I wonder if we could make master some sort of an alias for main such that it tracks it. I'm not sure. I think what will happen is I can just ping anyone who's got a PR open right now and say we're changing it. And I think it's easy enough to edit your PR to try to point it to a new branch. And what we could do potentially is, let's see, if you remove master, it makes it fairly clear that something's happened. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how you make it very obvious to everyone that you've changed the default branch.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can just do it, and we can announce it here and maybe make a discourse post for the tooling group. And then if there's any confusion, we can settle that up slowly over time. So that's that. Let's see. So this is similar to how we track versions with the symlinks in Linux. Yes, it is. I don't think that we want to maintain like a 2.3 because that's based on this example. You're saying like, should we also have a 2.3 tag? And we could, but it seems like a lot of maintenance, and I'd rather only track the highest level tag. Like, folks can still grab an explicit patch level and use Dependabot to get updates. But this is more the convenience for the average user of, they just want to track v2. And I think that's all they do in for example, Actions Checkout, which I'm using as an example because it is like the default in the tutorial that you put in first. And they have tags, patch level, yeah, so full, major, minor, patch, and then major is the tags that they have. And so I think I just want to copy that example because I don't want to have to manage too many tags. Do you have a strong objection to that? Or I guess it's just a question. Yeah.
It was just a question because 0.x is, that's actually
only
a minor
because we
tag.
haven't. Well, that's only because we haven't reached major version yet. So right now we're making, we're updating the minor version when we have API breaking changes. Like maybe we should consider a 1.0 release soon. But I'm not sure I feel comfortable with it yet. Like we're still early days on these things is all.
Okay.
I'm just gonna resolve that. And then node package will be a separate repository. Okay. This needs language clarification. So it sounds like we don't have any blocking concerns here, but a couple of language clarifications we want to make. So I'm happy to update that and then go for a secondary approval offline. Is there any other points about this that anyone has any concerns about? Parts of it that we shouldn't be changing from how we're doing it now, or major things that you feel have overlooked? Otherwise, we can move on and just do an approval after the second pass of language clarification. And I'm happy to do that offline. I don't think we need to be in a live meeting for that.
Yeah, I think that's the right call. I probably should have put comments as opposed to approval. I'm out
That's
of
okay.
Out of practice with my GitHub reviewing. I apologize.
No. It's fine. I mean, that's the whole point of doing a live discussion here, is to like make sure we don't just merge it when someone clicks OK. So yeah, with this we're running a little bit low on time, and I wanted to, let's see. I think maybe if we could go through this meeting, does anyone like have a hard cutoff? If we went a couple minutes over, would that be okay? Because I would like to get through this one. I also know that, Jacob, you had a discussion you wanted to go through. I'm wondering if maybe you want to do it as a breakout next week to talk through the reindex thing, like in a dedicated discussion.
That might be best at this point, I think.
Is that okay with you? That works?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm gonna have a hard cut, but I'd love to get that one to review.
Yeah. So if you guys could take a look at this one and leave any quick comments, and if you have to head out, that's okay. But it'd be nice to get a little bit of initial discussion in on the GitHub repository configuration management. It's a lot of words with a lot of syllables. So I'll check back in at 10, and then, you know, hopefully it won't take too long to read. It's about the same length as the other doc. And I'm thinking that next time, if I have designs like this to review, I, for some reason, thought they would be quicker. I just wasn't thinking too hard. I think I'll do a breakout the next time I want to do design reviews. And that's on me.
Sorry to cut early. Thanks, Emerson.
Thanks for coming, Aaron. I appreciate the feedback. Okay, it's 10 now. Does anybody want more time with this? Since we've decided to go a few minutes over, we might as well let you form your thoughts. Was that, I didn't hear from anyone. Does anyone want more time, or I'll take silence as done?
Yeah, I'm good to start.
Okay. So it looks like we don't have a lot of comments on this one then, which is good. To your comment, Project, that this part, let's see, so this is in, let me look in the context. Okay, so this is talking about application of settings will be performed. Yeah, so this is the idea is whenever you push something to the template repository, then it will trigger the synchronization of those settings out to all the ROS-tooling repos. The individual ROS-tooling repos, because they're not managing those settings, won't have anything to do with this workflow, but I can clarify that in the language.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Just wanted to double check.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Does anybody have any concerns about this approach? Or, yeah, like something I was maybe waiting for someone to say was, hey, this other group already does this better than this, and you don't have to build it. Is what I was kind of hoping. But it sounds like I'm not hearing that.
What happens if you fork a repository using these configurations?
Well, then it will have the files, and when you fork, I think you retain a few of the settings, but not all of them. So it'll have the files that were copied to it, and it'll have whatever settings were set. But since it's not in the manage list, what did I call it? The management configuration. So it's not in the repo list. That fork will not get updates unless it's added to the repo list on the template repository. So really, it's explicitly configured what repositories are managed, and so forks will not be managed.
Okay.
Yeah, and since all changes are applied, as code or as pull requests, that's just whatever fork will get out of date with the upstream, just like it would anyways if we were manually updating the configuration files. So they can always update to the latest if they want to. Let's see, what would happen if someone forked the template repository? I believe forks don't have actions enabled by default, so they'd have to make that explicit decision. And they also probably wouldn't have the token to be able to do the things, so they wouldn't have their workflows would fail. Yeah. Okay, so beyond that, sounds like I'm not hearing any concerns. I think that the concern, if Dirk were still joining these meetings, would be, well, the design's all fine and dandy, but it doesn't matter without any implementation behind it. With that imaginary Dirk in the room, I will agree, but I'm planning to start working on this stuff over the next few months, like maybe in Q2. And the idea is that I wanted to lay it out before making any sort of infrastructural changes to the working group without having a chance to present it to the members here. So that's why these designs are coming out now, is so that when I start making these changes, I can point back to say we had this conversation. All right, then. I can clarify this language too, and then we can do an offline second pass approval, unless you want to approve it now, and I can just merge it after updating the language to clarify.
Yeah, I just approved it.
Okay, thank you. And to be off the line, is there any last things that anybody wanted to bring up before we go? Jacob, I explicitly put that next week on January 22nd will be a breakout session for ROS-beg 2 reindexing. We'll set aside an hour for that, and I'm going to make a discourse post right now to announce that that's what's going to happen. Does that work for you at this same time, 9 o'clock?
Same bat time, same bat place? Yeah, I think that'll probably work. Cool. Also, I never managed to tell you, but I really like your avatar.
Oh, the Robo? Thank you.
Yeah, love that game.
There are very few folks in the ROS community, surprisingly, who recognize it. Cool. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, and I will see some of you next week.
Okay.
Yep, see you later.
Thanks, Emerson.
I'll keep an eye out on Discourse for it.
Yep.
See ya.
Yep, bye.